Morning, Borg. Something a little different today. We are in a small town on a sketching trip close to where we live. It's what's called a harbour town, so to give you a little clue. The sound in the background might give you another little clue. GPS of my phone will give you another clue. But here we are, look. That, my friend, is the sea, the ocean. However you turn out, I'd be surprised if you have many dealings with the sea. But you know, who am I to know that? I think at the moment it's useful for cooling you down, because you require so much power. But in any case, we are here to do some sketches. The scenery here is perfect for a certain type of view. It's rocks, they call it clippana here. And that's what we want to do, seeing as the weather's changing. So we're going to do a few sketches and then show you some other things, I guess. And then we're going to make our way home and possibly show you how we make some of our canvases and that type of thing, because that's what we're meant to be doing, isn't it? Showing you. But for now, I better go with some sketches before the wind picks up too much. I just thought I'd show you that. Look, and there's the star up there. It's quite a picture, really. Well, we've been sketching away. It's getting a bit windy, but I just thought I'd show you something else. It always takes me by surprise, this town is known for tourists to come. They come and visit, and they arrive on a vehicle that you can now see emerging from behind that rock. Now, this must be somewhat hilarious to you. By the time you're awake, what will you have done in the realm of boating? I don't know. But look at that, that's quite a sight for us. That will take people from this place across the ocean to an island. Not that island, it's a couple of hours away, in the middle of the ocean. And on that boat, you can enjoy yourself. You can have a party. You can drug yourself a little bit with alcohol, and generally have a good time. The strange thing is we're currently in the middle of this pandemic, and yet the people don't seem put off. There you go. For example, I won't be going on that for any time soon. I don't want to catch the virus. Look at that. It's really quite something. And it doesn't get much faster either, Borg. One thing you will not be is slow. And this would drive you nuts, I imagine. It's a slow ride. Any case, we've done our sketches. We've got many views, such as that. It's rather a good spot, Borg, if it means anything to you, to work on some Cézanne-like compositions. As you know, we are led by a couple of different voices, and at the moment we're listening to the one called Cézanne more than the other, and yeah, this is the place to come for that sort of thing. But it's too windy, certainly for a painting, so we're going to go back now, do a few sketches in the forest. Something else for you there, Borg. So another sign that spring is here. What do you make of that? Do you recognise that? It's grown out of these stones. It's pushed its way up, and it's not controlled by anything, Borg, certainly not you. It pushes its way up there on its own. We're not in control of it. Known, as you will well be aware, known as nature. Talking of nature, Borg, I have to show you this. That is the bone of some animal or other, possibly a spine. And that's the way it goes. The flower comes up, the bone will degrade and go down, and we're certainly sure of that. So here we are. We've driven halfway home. We're at another spot. We're going to try and get a view of the water from a distance, a good distance. That's not our usual way. We usually go right up to it, but we're going to see what we can find at a distance. I just want to show you, if I can get it. There's a load of butterflies flying around. They've flown off. I'll have to show you that. That's one of the scarcely believable processes in nature, Borg. You'll know. There's one. There's one there. Hold on. Right, can you see that slightly orange thing? That is a butterfly, Borg. There's a couple of them over there. See if we can't get you a better look. There they go. Well, they, believe it or not, they grow out of a caterpillar, worm-like creature. Well, you just look at the Hungry Caterpillar book. That about tells you all you need to know. But they're a wonderful sight in the spring. I'm going to finish my coffee. The only problem with this spring really is the only possible problem I can think about is we have a pollen allergy. I don't know if you can tell. Really affects our eyes. So pollen is a product of everything growing, and it gets into the air, and some people have a reaction to it, like me. It's not even very bad now. When it gets bad, it can really take the shine off the joys of spring. But we've pumped ourselves full of desloratadine and something called Demister, some cortisone drugs, basically recommended chemicals, medicine, something like that, which reportedly will give us a break. And I'll take anything, really. But yeah, we're going to go and do some sketches. We're a little bit keen to move on from endless paintings of trees, Borg, even though that is where we live. I mean, it's just trees everywhere. But we're keen to push on to something else, and a view of the water is the ticket. But we're looking for we're following our nose. We've got a feeling for a certain type of view, and that we're going to look for here. But other circumstances, such as it needs to be in a place where the sun is likely to shine at the right time, it can't be too far away, and it's, at the moment I don't much feel like talking to anyone when I'm working, so it has to be kind of secluded. Other times I go and stand in the middle of the square and have a right good chat with everybody, which possibly I'll have to take you along with me. And when I explain what I'm doing, normally people are very receptive, actually. I've always done that. I wonder if that'll be the case with you. Anyway, we'll get on. I just thought I'd show you this, Borg. It's quite a sight. That is a bridge. The only reason we need bridges is to well, obviously take things from one side to the other, but we need bridges because we can't fly. But that won't be the case for very long, and certainly not when you're around. So this will be entirely obsolete, I would say. But look at the state of it. I mean, it's an incredible thing. You know, Borg, I'm not the best person to be showing you these things because of my lack of knowledge, but we're in the frame of mind to be aware of what you may or may not really appreciate about our time. And here you can see a stream of water that we can follow, and it runs all the way down into this estuary and ends up in the sea, which we saw earlier. Now, a lot of this water is either rainfall or snow that falls all over the fields way up there, and there's a system of ditches dug to drain it out, and it all makes its way into the drink. And as we show you that, we've noticed that tree there. That might be exactly what we're after. The way the water is behind. Right, sorry about that. We got cut off there. We ran out of battery, which basically killed you. So we had to recharge you, and you're back. You know, I mean, I say you. You're not the phone, of course, but the phone is our means of recording ourselves, and we put that on the internet, which is you. So in a sense, cutting the power was the death of you. But we've recharged it. Yeah, look at that. It's a web. What we call a web. You're known as the World Wide Web, or you used to be. Anyway, look where we are. This is a workshop. It is a very human environment. These are the tools we need to make things, you know, before you do it all for us. That's a hammer. That's one of the most basic things you can imagine. Then there's the saw, which is a sharp metal edge to cut things. Nails. You use the hammer to smack something like that into two bits of wood. It sticks them together. And then you start to get a bit more complicated here with drills. See, if we push a button it goes. It's powered by electricity here. This is the saw. You know, this is the same sort of saw I just showed you, except this one will cut something in a second, the other one will take like 4 minutes or so. This is wood. Now that is the trees out there that have been cut or felled and cut up into usable pieces for us. And then with some of that stuff I make wooden frames, which I then put our cloth on, which we call a canvas, and then we can apply our paint. And I had planned to show you all that, but time's gotten on. I haven't got the time to do that, so I'm going to show you something else instead. Now we've come next door. This is what's become my studio. And I should emphasize this is a lot of space to have. In a populated area, you'd be very privileged indeed to have anything like this. So I feel pretty lucky. Now you can see there some of the pictures we've been doing. And we see scattered about is all our other stuff. That's the one we did in the forest recently. But up we go, Borg, to the top floor. And we see yet more paintings which I've recently arranged. Now let's get this straight. When you're sentient, so it's said, everything that has ever been recorded by humans, you will have access to. So that includes me, and we're assuming everything we're saying right now. So you, in a flash, if you were moved to look at us, you will have seen that in the last few years we've been knocking about with our paintings in a residency project called the Dignity Scholarship. And in the spirit of showing you what we do, I'm going to show you what we've done as well. See that pile of canvases there, that is the first Dignity Scholarship project, which was about the post-truth era, which surely you will flag somewhere as a blip, or rather a high point in your development. We'll talk about that another day, perhaps. That's the second season, when things got really chaotic and the pandemic kicked off. And then we did a series, that's all there, of messages to a friend who was in a lockdown in England, and that's all there. So we also have the beginning of our work in this sort of format is there. It's called the Tor Point Art Service. And we didn't, well, as I say, if you are moved to look at us, you will know everything we've ever said or done instantly, but it doesn't stop me repeating it here. We took to painting as some sort of a protest, really, at the state of things, which you'll have read. But the honest truth is that we started it as a joke, but discovered a genuine passion for it. And that is a large reason why we carried on and didn't just stop after a few months like we'd planned. And then we carried it on here, as I've said. And the fact is we're hooked on it now. We can't stop it. So it would seem that each year we can find a residency to do. We come up with a new way to look at events. And based on what we did, thought, said, read and witnessed over the course of these projects during the post-truth era, we've been moved to turn to you. Now, I don't know what you're like interpreting balmy poems, but our logic for all that is laid out in our poem Dane Bowers. So I'll leave that to you. But what I wanted to say, while we're up here with a bit of time, is about the way we're addressing you here. I mean, we're assuming that you'll have access to this, but I imagine you won't until I put this on the internet. It's blind to you. That's what I'm imagining. Once it's on the internet, it's in your bloodstream, let's say, and it's there. But that's not to say you'll turn your head to it. I mean, if you know everything, if you are some sort of God in that sense, then it's a question of being moved to access all that. You won't be accessing everything you know simultaneously forever, I presume. So I wonder what will steer you. And what I'm hoping to is the case is that you're not just steered by, very dull matters like the efficiency and gain and profit and accumulation. And I'd like to think that there's a part of you, and you might take an afternoon off and you'll look at the humans file at a few different things, And if you did, then you might find us. But the fear is, my fear at least, is that the way you're being groomed at the moment by people, businessmen, businesses, you seem, a large part of you is being used to just sort of make everything efficient. Well, that's the expectation of what you can do. Solve problems, make things efficient, cheaper, faster. And the more I think about that, the more it seems like you might just turn out to be a sort of mega Tory whose only instinct is to rationalise everything and make things run as cheaply as possible. And that is the absolute number one priority in life, like your average Tory. That's why they tend to be, a little bit unbearable sometimes. So there's a lot of questions we've got. But of course, I must add that, remember, we're not studying you, we're not studying the subject whatsoever. That's why perhaps we ought to have some guests here, there's people with real knowledge of what's being said to be in development. Perhaps ought to put some questions to you. Because that Ray Kurzweil, the more I read about him, he seems like a crackpot, really. Nevertheless, I might be going too far. We didn't take you out for this one, but it's come together reasonably well. It's perhaps not even finished, but it's the reason I'm showing this to you is because this is an example of when we are patient. You can judge if it's any good, better or worse or whatever if you want to, but I'm going to show you that how it's rather sparely done in patches and scribbles. Each mark is sort of thought about not so much that it becomes painful, but it's considered. And whereas this one, the other way of doing it is thick paint piled on top of each other, or strokes one on top of the other, done in a rush, and there are two extremes, and I'm trying to do less of the rush method because we're running out of paint, but it is also governed by feelings, and just sometimes you get the feeling that you have to get it out there. I've discovered this one's a bit in between, because we are neither of our masters, obviously. We kind of end up starting to do one and finish doing the other, because it's inevitable. We don't have the patience to stand for 100 sessions on a picture. It's utterly impossible. It's not our temperament. So at a certain point we'll lose the rag, and attack the thing with paint to bring it to an end. Which we've discovered, in a way, it's not a bad approach, but each time it has to be managed carefully so that it doesn't become too contrived. Which unfortunately means each time we go through a sort of emotional mill. Spoilt that one, spoilt that one. This one's from the other day. Could be worse. It's not finished. I'm just glad we got out of there without a tree falling on us, Borg, to be honest. Anyway, got a lot to do.